Welcome to Ecoville, and thank you for joining us for another episode of your program that promotes environmental conservation. On this episode, we're joined by April Hepokoski, who joins us all the way from the United States of America. She's an environmental author and the founder of the Little Barnyard Preschool, and she's here to tell us more about nature-based learning. Welcome to the program, April.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Can you please tell us about the Little Barnyard Preschool?
Yeah, so I started the Little Barnyard Preschool in 2014. It's a nature-based preschool on a hobby farm. And so we have goats and bunnies and chickens, sometimes ducks. We have doves. Yeah, it's really fun. We spend a lot of time outdoors in nature, learning through the different season changes. We have the 4 different seasons here: spring, summer, fall, winter, and we're outside during all of it. It's for children 3 to 5 years old, and sometimes they're 6 if they're coming right before they go to kindergarten too. And yeah, it's really based around the children's interests and their motivations. And so the curriculum is more emergent. And so my role as a teacher is to really observe and watch the children, see what they're interested in, what kind of play themes are coming up often for them, and really structuring our learning activities and our day around what they need and what is of interest to them, and working on those different skills through that, so they stay so engaged. It's very age appropriate and play based, and it's outside, which I think is just an amazing environment for children and for me and the other teachers that I have. And we really do a lot with learning life skills. The children grow food in the garden. They get to help water the plants. They get to help plant the seeds in the beginning and harvest the food. They get to then make their own snacks with that food. And gosh, we do so much. I could say so much, but maybe I'll leave it at that.
It seems everything there is like it's teaching them the love for nature. And the other thing I also understand is you are a zero waste nature-based preschool. Why did you decide to start a preschool like that?
Yeah, so originally when I first started, it was just more considered a nature-based preschool. I hadn't really added in that zero waste element as much because I just didn't know about zero waste at that time. I was just starting to, I think it was in 2014, but after I had started the school already, that I really started to learn about zero waste. And so it came in pretty soon, but the nature-based aspect, I really wanted to give children an experience that was hands-on and that involved their whole body to learn, because that's often how I see, children learning is they want to be, having all of these different sensory experiences, like jumping in a mud puddle or rolling down a hill. And so the nature aspect, when you're outside in that environment, it just gives us so many wonderful opportunities for children to just be who they are. When you're in an indoor setting, it gets trickier because, they're told they shouldn't run as much, make sure you're walking and use a quiet voice. And children just aren't really like that. They are loud and they're busy and they want to be messy. And nature provides that. It allows us to just run. They are running back and forth all day long, and they are so happy, and so am I, because they need it. And they are jumping in the mud puddles. They are playing in the rain. They're playing in the snow when it's winter, and it's giving them all of these amazing experiences. And it just also gives them a really good foundation in building this relationship and connection to the land and not being so separated from it. So that's where the nature-based aspect came in. The zero waste part came in after I started implementing more zero waste practices in my own personal life. That came about because I had some really debilitating health conditions that I was dealing with, and there weren't any, the treatments that I was offered, they weren't working for me. So I couldn't do them. And I had to start venturing out on my own and figuring out how to heal myself. And nature was it. I was healed through these different foods and plants, through supplements and through foraging and through gardening. And I no longer experienced these conditions anymore. And I was told they were incurable. And so it's really, nature is it's just amazing to me. And I just want to give children the experience of just being completely immersed in it. And the zero waste, how that kind of intertwines with that health journey was, I started researching when I was trying to figure out how to heal my body. I was trying to research how to get away from these different chemicals that would go into my food if it was either wrapped with plastic, and those chemicals leached onto my food, which that was, it could have been causing some hormone imbalances, which was part of my condition. And so that's how zero waste came into my personal life. And then I was just running my school at the time, and I was like, you know what, this goes exactly with my philosophy with the preschool, because we care for the environment, we care for our world. And so it was easy for me to just start implementing these ideas into the school as well, once I really solidified the habits in my own life. So,
no, that's great that you're actually teaching children to love nature from a very young age. But then there are economic differences, like you're in the United States, we're in Africa. If someone would have the idea of setting up a school like this, how difficult is it, or what are the cost implications of wanting to set up a school like yours?
Yeah, it's such a great question. That is the great thing about nature learning. You really just need an outdoor space. I'm not super familiar with how, you guys have outdoor settings in Africa, but like here are some of the different nature-based schools. They use public land for their schools. Maybe they'll go hike out onto land and have different play spaces out there for the children. I do have a private property that I use, and it didn't actually cost me anything in the beginning because we owned that home already. And so we just opened the school on our own property. And so it just kind of depends on your situation and what resources you have available. Nature provides, all these different spaces for free. And so just kind of look around, see what you have. If you have a public setting that you can go to, maybe there's a churchyard or somewhere else that, that you can use, talk to your neighbors and other people to see what spaces are available. And then also for like materials, a lot of our art projects, kids go through a lot of materials for art projects. Mm-hmm. And you can look to nature a lot for these different materials, like pick flowers with them and dry the flowers and use those for collages. You can use earth clay, just dig clay right out of the earth. We're really lucky here on our property where we have that right on our ground. And all these different activities, like just going out and catching frogs, and it doesn't have to necessarily cost anything. Of course there's going to be expenses, but really nature provides so much for free. And of course we want to be using things in a sustainable way. We don't want to be, greedily taking all these things, because it really is living in harmony with nature. But like one option for like, if you want a block set, you could, if there's a tree that has fallen down and it's a dead tree, you could cut it up into rounds and use those for blocks. We have those in our classroom. You could bring in flat stones and use those for stacking. And these are all just, there's so many different things that nature provides that you can use. Also, with the zero waste aspect, reusing materials and repurposing things is a really big piece. And so if you can reach out to your community and ask them for, maybe you can get a donation of tires. We use a lot of tires at our school outside in our play areas. We stack them and fill them with sand to make big pyramids. And these all came for free too. People just donated them. And so just really reach out to your community. You can repurpose so many different things and it doesn't have to cost you anything.
So it's just about repurposing and just using the things that you have around you.
Yes, definitely. And another expense for schools too is food. You're providing all these meals for the children. And one great thing is growing your own food. If you guys can set up a garden, there might be some initial costs there, but then seeds are so much cheaper than buying the actual food itself. And you are gaining all of these wonderful life experiences of how to feed yourself. And that can really lower your costs as well. In the month of August, when our growing season is, really at its peak, we have a lot of stuff coming out of our garden. I hardly ever have to go to the store to buy any food for our school because we're getting it from our gardens. So yeah, you can get really creative.
Yes, you can. How is nature-based learning different from mainstream education?
Yeah, it does look different in that outside play and learning is very important and it's prioritized. Many mainstream schools have either really minimized their outside time or at times don't go out at all. Like if it's raining, oftentimes they don't go out. Where we do, we really prioritize it. We just plan for the weather. And so I didn't start out where I was able to afford a class set of rain suits. I couldn't at first, but after being open for a while, I was able to buy a whole class set of rain suits for every child so that if it was raining outside, we could still go outside and play comfortably and not be soaking wet for hours. And so you kind of find these different ways of being able to just still be immersed in the outdoor experience without feeling like you're jeopardizing the safety and health of the children. Even like in the winter, it gets below zero here in Minnesota, and we go outside at 0 degrees. We use more caution when it gets below zero because, that's when the wind chill can really create the frostbite. We, have the neck warmers all the way up to our eyeballs. So we are just showing our eyes and we're all covered from head to toe with winter gear. And we're happy out there. We play and play and play. And if you can dress appropriately, then you can really get outside. So I would say that's probably the biggest difference between nature-based preschool or schools in general and mainstream is we really put a big importance on being outside and making sure that we get out there. Of course, we don't go out if it's like thundering or lightning. That's when we would go inside. Or if it's such a cold day where frostbite would come really quickly. Of course, we use caution, but there are so many more times that we can be outside than not. So that is probably the biggest thing. So
why do you think nature-based learning is important for children? What kind of skills do they get from nature-based learning?
Oh, so many. I mean, really, you're engaging the whole child. They are getting gross motor skills built in. They are running, jumping over logs, they're jumping in puddles. They're getting the fine motor where they're finding all these little treasures in nature. They're picking up the pine cones and being so gentle with the frogs that they're finding in the tadpoles. They're building those social emotional skills too, with being able to handle these different creatures so kindly, and also like they are working together so well outside. Children in an indoor space, oftentimes that I was seeing at other schools that I worked at, it felt so crowded and there wasn't a lot of room. And so there are a lot more conflicts, where when you're outside, of course, children are working through those social skills. But that's part of childhood and learning. But there's less of that because there's more space between them. And nature just really gives us a great opportunity to work with each other. And just like if we're in the woods and they want to build a fort out of sticks, oftentimes they are working together to gather all of these sticks. They're coming up with these ideas. They're problem solving. And of course, these things can also happen in an indoor setting. The outdoor settings really give this whole other level to this work. So it's really important. It also provides an environment and a learning space that's not feeling as rushed, and it's not as overstimulating. It's provides more of a slower childhood in a way. Classrooms can often be like really overwhelming with like the bright walls, all the posters and the letters all over the walls, especially in the United States. I don't know how it is there, but so when you get to nature, there's, it's so calming. Yet there are so many striking things about nature, these beautiful wildflowers and the bright blue sky and, the water play, but it's more of a calming experience rather than like being in this loud room with all these other people where the noise is bouncing off the walls and they're really wanting to run, but their energy has to be contained. And, they want to be messy, but we don't want the mess to be on the floor of the classroom, where it's like in an outdoor classroom, they can fill up their watering can so full and it can be spilling all over the place on the ground, and it is no big deal. And they're bringing it over to the garden. They're watering their garden, and they can be messy, and they are allowed to be messy. And it's such an important environment for them.
So is this form of learning popular in the United States?
It's becoming more well known, I would say, especially where I live. We have many nature-based schools in my area, although I think we're kind of one of the more luckier areas to have so many of them. We actually have formed a collaborative of all the nature-based schools around. So we get together and all the nature-based teachers connect and share ideas and share challenges with each other and ways that we can help each other. And so, I think it is becoming more popular, or at least more well-known. And I think I'm hoping to see that there will be more of a shift with at least adding elements in even of nature-based learning. So
if most countries adopted this form of learning, how do you think this would benefit the environment?
Oh, yeah. It's an amazing thing to watch children grow such a deep connection and relationship with the land and with other living things. I really feel like if we can teach children to love the land and how to take care of it and find ways to support the land, it gives back to us, and if we can teach this at a young age and really give children this like experience at a young age to fall back on and to relate to with nature as adults, and as a country, or if we all do this, we could see massive changes in our awareness of nature systems. We wouldn't maybe be as separated from the natural environment. We would know how to take care of it and how it takes care of us, and how to heal our bodies and how to be in harmony with it. So it would be so great if more countries could adopt this form of learning for the children and for the adults, for everybody. Yeah.
So how can nature-based learning contribute to the fight against climate change?
Yeah. So although I don't feel like well-versed enough about climate change to talk specifically on it, because there's so many points to it and statistics and all these things, and my brain is not great at holding all of that stuff in. But I will say that anyone who can grow up with a deep respect for the natural systems of the earth, I think this will benefit any negative changes we see around the world. Perspective is so important. And, going back to my earlier answer, experience adds to our perspective. And so, being immersed in nature from when a person is young will give so many wonderful experiences to help guide our habits and correct changes that we may see we need to do. So,
okay. Right now, the world is facing a global pandemic, and children have not, I can say children here have not been to school maybe now for almost 2 years. They've been going in and out, lockdown, and then they're back at school. So do you think nature-based learning is the answer to children going back to face-to-face learning?
Oh, I absolutely think it could play a role. Yeah, we were open during the pandemic, and it was really wonderful to already have it established that we learned outside, because when you're outside, you have a lot of space between each other. There's a wonderful airflow between one another. And so that's harder to do when you're inside. Inside you're having to sanitize things so much because, there's just not as much of that airflow and space. And it seems like the germs are all in one area, where outside it seems like it just feels a lot fresher and cleaner. But also I think, being outside, also, I believe that being immersed in nature builds our immune systems, because we are exposed to all these microorganisms and different things that gets our immune systems going. And if we can have children, be immersed in this and be exposed to these different things at a younger age, I believe that our immune systems really can benefit from that. So even from that standpoint of our health, being in a pandemic and worrying about these different things, if we can have these strong immune systems, I think that is just a great thing. But yeah, getting back to face-to-face learning, I mean, if you can encourage more outdoor experiences in your school, I think that would be really great, because then you're getting a lot more space between each other. There's that airflow. And and also when I was operating during this pandemic, and even before that too, it just doesn't seem like when you're outside as much that children pass around illness as much to each other. That's just based off of what I noticed and experienced. But yeah, it really does seem true.
And you really brought up like a very interesting aspect of children building up their immune system. That's really interesting, and I think is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you're not just a teacher, you're also an author. You tell us more about the books you've authored or co-authored.
Yeah. So I'm a contributing author for the book Zero Waste Kids, hands-on projects and activities to reduce, reuse, and recycle. It's coming out this winter of 2021, we believe, and it's just on its final stages, it seems. So that's exciting. My friend Rob Greenfield, he's a fellow sustainability activist. He's been putting this book together. So it's just filled with great hands-on zero waste activities for children. So I'm just one of the contributing authors of this book who wrote some of the activities. So yeah, that's really exciting. So people, if they want, they can pre-order the book right now on Amazon or any bookstore worldwide. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm really excited for it to come out.
So what are your future plans at the Little Barnyard and also as an author?
Yeah. So For Little Barnyard, I'm slowly expanding the preschool to have more teachers involved and more children enrolled. So I started pretty small at first just to kind of get my bearings, but I've been running since 2014. So it is starting to get to a point where I'm wanting to expand more. Each year, we're adding something new to the school. It's so fun. It's just an absolute dream job for me, and a dream school for many families and children. I hear it all the time, and it's work that is really, I feel really honored to be able to be like this, be in this role for children, to be able to give them this experience and to be such a big part of their life as a teacher. And I just get to spend my time with young people who love learning and they love life and they're just excited about the world. And so, it's amazing. And so slowly we'll be expanding. And then as for being an author, we're getting that book out soon. Also, I do run a blog, Zero Waste Nature School. I do write on there periodically about my preschool and what I do with zero waste stuff there. I also, do some writing on some social media sites for Zero Waste Duluth and the Little Barnyard Preschool. But yeah, I guess I'll see where life takes me with writing projects. I'll see what comes about. But right now, I'm enjoying the ones I have. So, yeah.
So thank you, April, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was so great.
It is. And I just want to take this opportunity to announce that later on in the year, April will be back on Ecoville to talk about the book she co-authored with renowned environmentalist Rob Greenfield called Zero Waste Kids. She'll be here to tell us more about the book after its launch in the United States. Thank you again to our listeners. Please don't forget to subscribe, follow us on our social media pages, and our handle is Ecoville ZW on all platforms. Join us next week for another episode. I'm your host, Nosigelelo Kwaka.